Welcome to Spirit Outspoken, where we dive deep into the realms of spirituality, healing, and the beautiful chaos we call life. From ancient traditions to modern practices, we are going to explore it all. Whether you're a newbie or a seasoned seeker, you're guaranteed to find something that inspires, challenges, and intrigues you here. So grab your favorite beverage, find a cozy spot to curl up, and join us for Spirit Outspoken. Today's guest is Melissa Pierce, a teacher, author, psychotherapist, and true pioneer in the field of human horse healing. For over 3 decades, Melissa has devoted her life to helping others uncover deep emotional healing, blending her background in Gestalt therapy with the intuitive, energetic wisdom of horses. She is the creator of the Equine Gestalt Coaching Method, a powerful, certified approach that supports clients in releasing old patterns, reconnecting with themselves, and stepping into lives of greater self-awareness and compassion. Melissa's work is rooted in the belief that horses are natural healers, embodied gestaltists who live fully in the present and reflect back what we feel, not what we say. Her approach has touched thousands of lives, and her connection with horses continues to guide her purpose. This conversation with Melissa is truly something special. It's heartfelt, moving, and filled with deep wisdom. So much so that it managed to bring us to tears 3 times during our recording. We are so honored to share her presence and her story with you today. Let's get started. We are absolutely thrilled to have Melissa Pierce with us. Melissa is the CEO of Touched by a Horse, and Melissa works with horses and using horses as a methodology and a way of healing people. And we are thrilled because this is such a unique pathway of healing. And this season, that's what we're all about. So, Melissa, so glad you're here. Thank you so much.
You. Thank
With
you,
that being said, can you just give us an overview of what it is you do? And I know there's a ton of different things. You're an author, you're a speaker, you've created all of these beautiful resources for people, but just what it is that you do and how you kind of stumbled into this.
You bet. So Touched by a Horse is my company, like touched by an angel. You girls are probably too young to remember, but CBS's #1 show for years was Touched by an Angel.
I remember.
Okay, good. And I think of my horses as my angels. So I work to always say I partner with them instead of use them, because I see them as this incredible, clairsentient healing partner. And I have mostly horses called gypsy vanners. So you've ever seen a picture of the gypsy with the rounded top wagon and they're pulling along? It's a little black and white horse in front with a long flowing mane. That's a gypsy vanner. I think they actually were the Prius developed by the gypsies because they're just big and beautiful and kind and really sweet. So years ago, after a very traditional horse life of showing and exhibiting and breeding and raising horses, I am a psychotherapist, and I recognized that the horses were really saying something more to me. So I would work with a client, and then they would have a break before they would come back to me, and I'd send them out for a walk, and my horses would come off the green grass over to the fence to just stand with a client who was maybe in a rough place. When I got back with the client, this was my ranch in Flagstaff, Arizona. Got back with the client later in the afternoon, I could feel they were more open and they were more trusting and more ready to really dig into some very deep work. And after I watched that pattern, it was always a different horse. They always opened the clients up. I thought, wow, they're showing me they have so much more to offer on the globe. So I started this work long before anybody else had done so. There wasn't the internet or anything we could go, hey, do you do this? So we started it. And I am a Gestaltist, which is a German word for flowing into wholeness or form. And so the horses work with my clients. Mostly in today's world, the last 17 years, I've been training others to do my work. And so they partner with horses to work with veterans. A lot with Center Against Sexual Assault, foster kids, people that are going through divorce, through grief, whatever it is. Horses show up in a non-judgmental, present, strong way. And so it's truly beautiful what they offer to the world. And that's what my retreats are too.
That's incredible. And I mean, like we were talking about before we kicked off the episode, Rachel and I were doing research on retreats, and Rachel was actually put in touch with, your retreat center through another contact, and we were investigating. We're like, oh, what an amazing thing. Because just recently, you're talking about like social media and the internet, you see this groundswell of,
Yeah.
horses really
Yep.
becoming healing partners to a lot of these technicians, like with Reiki or
Mhm.
or what have you. And we also were recently investigating the telepathy tapes where we were talking about telepathy in elephants,
Yep.
right? So
Yeah.
this whole movement around, yes, like
Yeah.
animals.
Horses have that same clairsentience. Mhm.
Exactly, right? So this was just such a beautiful thing. We're like,
Thank you.
yes,
Who
just
knew?
so happens, right? So this was so fascinating. And
Yeah.
you
Thank
talked
you.
about the type of clients that, are getting the most healing. What do you think it is? Do you think that the horses can feel their pain? Are they somehow sensing it? What have you observed in your experience of what this mystical experience is like?
Well, first of all, horses, like a lot of animals, but especially horses, they don't resonate to what we're thinking. That is not their jam. When we're really in our heads and up away from our somatic experience, they tune out. It's like a radio station being just tiny bit off, kind of a lot of static noise. So they separate themselves from that. But as soon as we drop into either something physical in the body that's not working right or into something that's emotionally painful, they show up really, really big and strong. What I've proven they're doing, I use everything from sound, all kinds of mediums to do it. They are able to assess at a long distance away from you what's off, what in your vibrational field or in your chakra field is just off. It's not humming the way it should. And so they can attune that. We talk about Reiki, and I think Reiki's awesome. And I believe horses pat us on the head and go, look at the cute little baby Reiki master, right? Because they're the true Reiki masters. They are the ones that can do it from several feet away. They can do it up close. They sense it easily. And it makes sense. They're not on Zoom. They're not listening to television and radio and all that stuff. They're out with less frequency and they're tuned in more to what's happening in the real world right from Mother Earth up. So they're highly, highly sensitive animals that are able to come over. And I always say when I do it with tuning forks, they'll take the tuning fork and it might be, they raise it just a little bit. And it's a beautiful thing to witness. So they're pretty darn powerful.
Wait, tell us more about
Yes,
that.
ma'am. Yes, ma'am. So the vibrational field in the body has a tone or a sound to it, right? They're
Yeah.
super, super keened in on the sounds of what the human sounds like when they're in alignment. And they're interested in us being in serenity and us being in alignment and us feeling really good because that's where they are. They live at the vibrational beat of serenity, unless a human's doing something they don't like. But when they're just out in pastures, just watch. They just graze and get along. There's no fights, there's no arguments. They do great. It's when they're under the stress a human imposes on them, sometimes that's when their energy gets off. But when they're allowed to be in their serenity, which is a megahertz of 500, we are on a good day at 225. Well, that's a good day. That's when we're not making ourselves neurotic and worrying. Human animal tends to do a lot of comparing. That's kind of how the brain is organized to compare things. So we're often looking at what happened yesterday and working ourselves up into anxiety, or what might happen tomorrow based on that works us into anxiety. We're either in depression or anxiety almost all the time.
Yeah.
So we don't stay here, which is what we pay people the money for, right? For yoga, holotropic breath work, prayer, all of it is about helping the human animal shut this off and come to this moment. So that's what they're good at. They are always in the moment. They're never out in the pasture going, did that saddle make my butt look big? Never. Never worried about that. There it is, right here, right now.
I love that. And it's so true. So my daughter is getting into horseback riding lessons.
Good.
And I have noticed myself when I walk into the stables and they're getting everything ready, there are times where it's so peaceful. It's so
Hmm.
peaceful. It's so calming. It is true. You can feel their beautiful energy. And
Yeah.
I love the way you described it as being almost like the ultimate Reiki master, because that helps me kind of conceptualize
That's
what's
what they're
happening.
doing. That's what they're
Okay.
doing. So while she's getting saddled up and all that's going on, walk over near the stall of any one of the horses and just ground your feet. Get really still. Feel Mother Earth under your feet and bring all your mind to just that. And just stand in front of the horse. Just bring all of your energy down to your feet. Okay. And breathe. That's all you have to do. And watch. The horses will come over and they align the body part correlated to your body part and chakras. And then you'll feel it. You will feel it in your body, paying attention to it, what they're doing. So pretty much all horses do it. It's their essential gift. If they're happy. If they're not happy, not healthy, why should they care about us? But happy, healthy horses, absolutely.
That is so beautiful. It's
Yeah.
beautiful. Do
Yeah.
you notice that when people are dealing with certain traumas, whether it's sexual abuse or,
Hmm.
PTSD from war, do the horses, are they different with different people based on what their issue is? Or is it simply they notice which chakras are off?
Well, nothing about them is simple. So I will say that it can be really complex what they're up to. I have horses that do full on pantomimes of things, Rachel, like things that I'm working with that they're in a round pen with the client and the client speaking about something. They will stop and pull back from a person if the person's lying to themselves. They will stay connected to them if they're in alignment. They will go act something out. I had a woman whose husband is now serving prison time for abusing her and her 3 daughters when they were young. And he's been in prison for many years now. So you know how violent and bad that had to be for the courts to actually do something about it, right?
Mhm.
So it was really rough. And she was talking to me in the round pen. She was talking to me about the chaos and what had happened to her. And we were getting it out so she could get rid of it, right? And my horse Gabriel came over and he starts pushing her pretty rudely, just kind of shoving on her. And then she's talking about what's going on and he's crowding her, making her move back a little bit. And he's a docile, sweet guy. She'd been around him for half an hour, but he could see what she was depicting. And I said, is that a little bit what that felt like? She goes, actually, that's exactly what that felt like. And I said, so you can ask him now. You've got the strength. He's in prison. Gabriel's doing that. You can say, stop. So she put her hands up and she goes, stop, like that. And he bowed down to her. I have witnesses to that piece. Absolutely. And a
Oh,
thousand more stories like that. Hmm. That
I
she
have
found her
goosebumps.
boundaries. Yeah, she found her boundaries and she called the police and she stuck it through and she took him to court. And, that takes for half a forever to do.
Oh, yeah.
He went to prison. And now she deals with her 3 daughters and their questions and what's going on for them. So they get it. That's where they can see the pictures, they can feel the pain, and they really do want us to be happy.
That is so beautiful. I mean, thinking about, going back to what you're saying about just observing horses in their natural habitat, right? The present moment is this elusive experience for all
Yeah.
humans, right? Like it's impossible. You have anxiety about the future, you're depressed about the past, right? We're constantly fighting this war of the mind, right? So just observing them is a lesson in and of itself, but to hear that they are so beautifully intuitive that they can partner with you, a therapist, to kind of push her in her journey in a way that she can now live out that piece of her healing to set that boundary and almost like act it
Oh,
out
yeah. Oh,
is
yeah.
insane.
A lot of them that do pantomime, quite a few that do pantomime, and they're pantomiming not for the client, but for me. They're showing me something that's going on with the client. Just all kinds of things. I mean, I have 1,000 stories like that. It could be a whole podcast semester.
So what does that mean? Pantomime? Is that like
You
they're
know,
it out?
yeah, they're acting.
Okay.
Yeah, they're acting it out. Another one, I had a family that their younger son was away in a rehab because he had gotten into drugs. The older son was with us and the mom and dad. And we're working with them to kind of reunify the family and process what's been going on. And we took a lunch break, came back. And after we took a lunch break, this mare I had named 3030, she was in the pen with the older son. He was 17 at the time. And he's walking along and she stops him. She walks in front of him and stops him. And he turned back toward the fence. She takes her muzzle and she pressed it really hard on his heart. And then she looked at me and I'm like, 30, I don't know what you're trying to tell me. Tell me again. She presses it on his heart. She goes to the fence. She grabs the fence and she starts running her teeth back and forth on this metal pole fence. So of course we're trying to figure it out because if you ever played the game, 2 words like that. So I'm
Right.
like, okay, show me again. She touches his heart. She runs her teeth on the pole. Very calm, docile, big quarter horse mare. And then all of a sudden I got it. That's a vice when horses do that. When horses chew on a fence or run their teeth on a pole, it's considered a vice. She was showing me he's got a vice. And so I asked him, I said, Jared, are you high right now? And he sunk to the ground and started crying. He had gone out and got high at his parents' day with the therapist around drugs. And it all came out. He's the one that gave the drugs to the younger brother the first time. Younger brother was protecting him, not telling mom and dad. Now here we are. It just all coming out. And as soon as it all came out and he was crying, the mare just stood over him, just stood really quietly, like, I said, you now have been busted by my horse, son. You need to, really look at that. And the rest of the day, everything went really well. But that's the kind of stuff. She's like, no, stop. You are not okay. There's something going on with you. You're not okay. And the only way she could kind of show it was like, it's like a vice. I'm like, okay, it's like a vice.
I'm blown away by the level of intelligence as well with these animals.
yeah.
I mean, the
Oh, yeah.
fact that they're able to conceptualize through their physical movements what they're trying to portray, that's wild to me.
They've drug our fields. They've taken us to war, not their wars, our wars. They have died for us in so many situations. They jump over jumps to entertain us. They race for us. I mean, they do so many different things through the eons. But for my work, what they're good at is looking and finding what's fractured in you and helping to make it whole. I mean, that's their beauty. I think they've been offering it always, but people are so interested in the doing with the horse instead of the being with the horse.
Gosh,
They're powerful.
Melissa, that was beautiful. I know it's the utility of the horse is what's taken
Yes.
priority, right? And it's
Yes.
this beautiful gift and this awareness. Part of what Rachel and I are trying to do is really help people that are not exposed. And like we're learning too, right? Like, especially with this, we had no idea. This is growing in popularity. We were super intrigued by it, but we're even learning so much just talking to you right now that it's waking us up of this consciousness that we are learning about our own abilities and our own
Yeah.
power, right? But
Yeah.
thinking also about all living beings, all this connection, right? Like
Absolutely.
telepathy in dogs, telepathy
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
parrots, all of these
Yeah.
different things. And horses just have this beautiful spirit. It just makes so much sense.
The way I teach about it, Jason, for people that are trying to kind of understand
Yeah.
it, is that if we had a scale to measure intellect, IQ, right? We measure it on the human scale, and then we compare animals to that human scale. Well, they don't do qualitative, quantitative work. They don't do math. They don't do any of that. However, that is not the only scale. And I think what mankind's ego has always been is we're here and animals are way down here on this scale. For my money, they are way above us on other scales. So if we're measuring on other scales, we're not top dog. We're top dog on math and quantitative analysis and all of that. No, they don't do math. They don't need to do math. They're right here, right now in nature. So I think there's a lot to be said. That's the grand awakening, is like maybe we shouldn't always measure everything on our intelligence quotient. Maybe there's other intelligence that animals have that we're a baby in, that we're just learning, like Reiki.
Yeah, we just did a couple episodes on something called the telepathy tapes. Do you know what that is? Where they're talking about nonverbal autistic children and humans, adults too, who have telepathic abilities and are actually tapping into these incredible sources. And now that they're finally able to communicate via keyboard and typing, they can finally share what's going on. But it's the same idea of these human beings who don't look the same, act the same in the way that we think they should or that we see as worthy.
Right.
And so
right.
we deem them as somehow being less intelligent or not as
Mhm.
capable, when in fact they're here to be our greatest teachers if we would
Yeah.
only let them. And I
No.
feel like it's very similar to the horses too. They're here
Yeah,
to
it
teach
is.
us
It
so
is.
much and wake us up.
So what if ADHD stands for attention dialed to a higher dimension?
Whoa.
Oh, what if it stands for that?
I
We
hope it
don't
does
know,
because I think I
right?
have it.
Yeah, we don't know, right? So
Yeah.
it's like, oh, maybe, we're just so sure our egos are so big as humans. We're so sure we understand everything at every age, at every year, at every decade, at every millennial, right? And we really don't. We really need to stay open like children and learn and learn and learn and learn,
It's
which is
so
why your
true.
podcast is so fun. 'Cause
Yeah, like that's it.
people are
And like,
doing, right?
God, and the more research we do, the more I'm like, I think we're the dumbest species, you know?
Possibly.
we know nothing. We know
We know
nothing.
nothing. I know, but this
Yeah.
so cool. So your Serenity Farms is in Watertown, Minnesota.
No. Oh, Serenity Farms is one of my graduates in Watertown, Minnesota.
Okay.
Yes, fabulous. No, I actually live in British Columbia. I was in Colorado for, gosh, many, many years of my life, over 30, and decided last year to move to British Columbia. So we just moved. We just relocated up here to a little town called Chase. And we have our ranch up here. We have 160 acres with a creek running through it. And yes, a lot of snow, big pine trees and all of that. And that's our retreat center now. We have tiny homes coming in, and our retreat center will be up here in beautiful British Columbia now.
No, literally, we just talked to an energy worker who was kind of giving me and Rachel some business advice. And she was like, it's really important that the two of you, as part of your business and planning, get away together. Right. And like,
think so
because
too.
that's really where, because like this whole journey started because we're trying to heal ourselves. Right.
Yeah,
And
right.
the power of spirituality
Right,
doing
right.
that. But a lot of that is through investigating things that we've never heard of, because like
Yep.
what you said is so spot on. The ego or the trap in all of this is assuming we know.
Yeah. And we don't.
Yes, we know nothing.
don't.
You
We
know
know
nothing.
nothing, right?
Right. Like that is
Right.
if you start at that
Exactly.
position, the
Yeah.
healing and the education that can unfold from there can be really miraculous because
Oh, totally.
there's so much. So talk to us a little bit, because you do have a lot of listeners in Minnesota. So what do you mean by you have a graduating farm?
I have 350 graduates in 11 countries worldwide that train to learn my methodology. So they've trained to learn to work with horses, with Gestalt in the way that I do. So I'm the mothership. I trained them. They all do a great job. So if you live near one, for sure, go see one. People are curious, they can get on touchedbyhorse.com, and we have Find a Practitioner, have a big map of the United States and Canada, and they can find them. We don't have a worldwide map, but we have them in Latvia, the UK, New Zealand, all over. So they can also contact our office to find who's like in their specialty, because we have some that specialize in addiction. We have some that specialize in sexual abuse. So sometimes it's good to travel where the person is that's dialed into that specialty. So, but they're all
That's
very what they do.
incredible.
So,
Thank you.
okay. So, and now I'm curious because like I
But
want to do this immediately.
You girls come to my retreat
Oh.
that you're in British Columbia.
Yeah.
We invite
Yeah.
you. All right.
I've never been to British Columbia. It's like on my list.
Oh, yeah. It's beautiful.
All right. I think I know what we're doing now.
Yes.
100%.
I think I know.
What we know what we're
100%.
doing. So talk us through what people would expect,
Yeah.
what therapy could look like, right? You gave us some really good examples, but if somebody said, listen, I want to heal X, Rachel has been super open on the podcast about her grief, journey through
You
grief.
bet.
Super open about, the traumatic and also miraculous experience of my son's diagnosis, right? If we were looking to continue down a path, where do you begin with that? Like anybody off the street, where would we start, and what would that look like in terms of visiting a retreat or one of your graduating centers?
Right. So a person can come for an hour and a half session, and a common comment they give back to me or to my practitioners is, wait a minute, I've been in therapy for 5 years or 10 years or whatever, and I see you one time and this all gets completely uncovered and I feel good. So the reason for it is it's experiential. So I'm a psychotherapist. I was trained in talk therapy. So talk therapy gives people a better understanding of what their issues are, but it doesn't heal it. It doesn't heal the somatic body pain. It doesn't bring it to a place of peace. And what this does is brings you to clarity and to peace. And that's, I think, what people are actually looking for. I've been on that grief journey, Rachel, and it's a tough one, especially for a mom. It's a bear, right? So do we want closure? No, we want openness. We want the opposite of closure, but we want peace. I give my heart peace. So that's what it's looking like. So many times they'll come, if they're coming to a retreat. I had a woman a few years ago that came to a retreat. Her girlfriend bought it for her as a gift. Her son was killed in her own front yard by the police in a mistaken identity case. So
Oh,
not meant to happen. I felt sorry for the police as well as the mom and clearly her son, all of that. And you can't make sense of things like that. You could go to talk therapy for the rest of your life. You can't make sense out of that kind of stuff. So she comes to the retreat. The retreats always have fabulous food because we love food. They have fabulous gifts. Women get gifts morning, noon, and night, like a lot of little gifts. It doesn't matter how big. You just love to open something special, right? With bows and wrapping paper. They're spending time with the horses, wearing their play clothes, right? It's not like going somewhere where you have to dress up and mind your manners. Like, no, you can cry out loud, you can scream, whatever you need to do. And when they have their time, say with me, if I'm the practitioner, there is a way to dial into listening to what your body is saying, your physical somatics and your body is saying. Your body speaks the truth, it speaks it faster, and it needs to be listened to. So we're dealing with the unfinished business that is hooked in the human body. And it's amazing work. It's hard to describe it, really. Sometimes it's a big release. Sometimes it's somebody getting those tears out that have been in their body since they were a 5-year-old child because they were traumatized at 5. Sometimes it's a scream of words that they never got a chance to say. Or there's just a lot of different ways that it's released from the physical body. And when people leave on the last day of a retreat, they feel like they found a sisterhood. They feel like they found people that really held space for them and held their heart and heard them. And it's equal, it's equanimity. Everybody did it. So it feels free and good. And I've got people that have stayed friends for decades after they've come to one of my retreats because they've gotten that deeply grounded with these other people. And I have had several that have wanted to go get their own horse. So there is a warning label always.
Oh, well, I'm sure you're going to this kind of sacred space. And I just have to comment, your energy is so beautiful. I mean,
Oh,
it's
thank you.
so comfortable just talking to you. It's so easy.
Yeah.
I mean, it really feels safe with you.
Thank you. Thank you.
And then you share these very deeply personal, vulnerable things. I can only imagine the kind of connection you start to make with the other people who
Right.
are also doing the
Really,
same thing.
really,
Yeah.
yeah. And willing to be authentic and share my own as well, share what's happened to me in my life as well. So, yeah. And that's one of the things to become a practitioner is people become very authentic.
Yeah. Oh, it's just so beautiful all the way around.
Thank you.
And such a good example of continuing to heal yourself and healing other people. And it's just this beautiful cycle that we all are progressing through.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
You know, horses have a gift that we don't have. They're completely non-judgmental. And so being in the presence of an animal that is giving you their heart without any judgment is a beautiful sensation just in and of itself, just to go, wow, this animal actually heard me. I don't know how much time we have, but I have an amazing story about a woman that went to Africa. Do you want to hear that one?
Yes.
A little bit long, but I have 22 people that witnessed this. So I always say that because these things sound crazy, but this truly happened. I had a women's retreat, and at the end of the retreat, I had a time where I had worked one-on-one with everybody that was there except one woman. And so I didn't want her to feel like she had to. I wanted to make sure she contracted with her own soul first. So I said to her, I said, I have time this morning to do the piece with you, or I am totally okay with saying you got a lot of borrowed benefit from the weekend and we're good, right? And she said, no, I do want to. I said, okay. So she comes up and sits in front of me. And I said, well, you watched a lot of these pieces. What's come up? She said, well, I was a medical doctor, and then I instead dropped my medical license and became a therapist. So that's not something you hear every day. You think there has to be a story around dropping that medical license. So I said, do you mind sharing with me the story of how and why you dropped the medical license? And she said, well, it wasn't what I was going to talk about, but I will. She said, I've only shared this with my sister. And I said, okay, well, if you're willing, she says, yeah, I trust you. I'm willing to do that. So she's in a 70-foot round pen circle. So the mare's probably as close I could reach out my arm and touch her nose. She's right there with us, right? She could go anywhere in a 70-foot circle, but she walked over, ears up, head down, right on this woman as she began to speak, as if she could understand this was big. This was really big. So the woman said she got her degree, finished becoming a doctor, but she really wanted a husband and a family. And she didn't have that yet. So she thought I could do something good with my medical degree for a few years and come back to the States. She decided to go to the Sudan. Now, when I was sitting with her, she was 72 years old. And this was a number of years ago. So the Sudan, in the years that she went, was going through a massive drought, like a drought we can't even imagine in America. And so she got there, and she's this young, brand new doctor. And they said, okay, well, you're going to treat these people. But they didn't have anything to treat them with, very minimal supplies. And what they were mostly dying from was dehydration and starvation. What can a medical doctor do, right? So she's there for 2.5 years. And she saw so much in the way of death and hopelessness, and it really did everything she could. She decided to leave at the end of her 2.5-year tour. And the male doctor, who was the head of the whole thing, walked over to her as she was getting on the plane. She thought he was coming over to say thank you for coming, but no, he said, you're going back. She said, I am. He said, I thought better of you, and turned around and walked off. She was like, oh. So she gets on the plane, she flies back. She lived in Seattle. She gets a job at a hospital. She's working there for 4 years as a doctor there, getting some experience. And what she was mostly experiencing was how much waste there is in American hospitals, as far as if she asked for a 4x4 gauze and somebody opened a 2x2, oh, sorry, and they'd throw it away. In where she had come from, it's like, no, 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 no. Don't do that. Put it back in the packet. Let's save it. And on, lots of waste. So she decided, because that was eating at her, she still hadn't met Mr. Right. She still didn't have kids. She's going back to the Sudan. She goes back to the Sudan. The rains had come. So now Peace Corps had been there, showed them how to do irrigation and reservoirs, and food was there. So she was really very happy to be back there. She's back there. She tells these stories of some stuff she went through there. And while she's, being a doctor back there, she's at a table with a bunch of physicians talking about things that they needed. And the one thing they all forgot was that something as simple as measles could come into a population that has zero immunity against it. And she was there while 14,000 people died of measles. And that's in the National Geographic magazine of that year. All these different people dying. So that was it. She was out. She's like, I can't do it. She came back, dropped her medical license, went back to school, became a psychotherapist, and that's what she was doing that day. Well, my mare hears her longer version of that story. She's just riveted to this woman, just riveted to her. And so I ask her some other things. We go through some things, do a little piece of Gestalt work. And then I said, are you okay going in the pen with my mare, Tori? And she said, yes. I don't know anything about horses, but yes. So I had her go and stand in the center of the 70-foot circle. And I said, feel your feet on Mother Earth. Take a deep breath. That's a powerful story. Many of us in the arena are highly moved from your story. So just breathe. And then my mare did something really odd. She didn't go over to her. She took her nose and she started rubbing her nose sideways like this all the way around. The entire 70-foot circle. Took her a while to do it, all the way around. I asked the woman, do you have any idea what my mare's doing? She said, not a clue, rejecting me, I think. I said, no, they're angelic. They're from the angel realm, not rejecting you. So she goes all the way around. Then Tori went into her and she pressed her muzzle against her heart. And then she put her head down to the ground as if she was eating the dirt, mimicking she was eating the dirt. She brought her head up and she looked at me again. 2 words, 3 syllables. I'm like, what? So I didn't know. So I said, Tori, I'm not following you. Show me again. She shows me again. Then she finally reached down and actually took a bite of the sand and spit it back out. And the woman said, oh my God. I said, what? She said, those women with the babies that were dying of starvation, the bellies on the babies get huge. And she said, then the mothers would let them eat sand because the sand would quiet the pains of hunger. Of course, killed the kids, but it would quiet pains of hunger. So yeah, thank you, Rachel. We were all crying, right? We're all crying as she's telling us this. And then she said, I think I know why she made the circle around the pen. I said, why? She said, in the Sudan, and a doctor like myself had to have the medicine doctor of the tribe present, and they would draw a circle around where we were working and bless that area before working with us. So I'm like, okay, chills everywhere, right? Then my mare picks up her foreleg, and a horse, anatomically, the way a horse is built, their shoulder is a swivel joint, and there's a rhythm when they're pawing. She took her leg out, and she didn't paw like a horse. She stretched it out and brought it like she was sort of digging in the sand, just kind of over and over and over digging in the sand. Now my client's starting to lose it. And she said, oh my God, Melissa. I said, what? She said, the mothers, the thing I can't get out of my head, and I was thinking while I was telling you the story, was the mothers on their hands and knees digging the graves in the sand for their babies. And they would dig and dig and dig and dig until they thought they had it deep enough by hand, bloody fingers digging through this sand to bury these babies. So we're all losing it, right? We're all losing it. She wept on my mare's shoulder, just cried and cried and cried to get it out. It was something she had lived several years before, but it was still in there. It was still angst for her. It was still unfinished. It still wasn't anything she had ever done. So we finished a beautiful piece of Gestalt work with her. She came back out and sat down and she said, why do you think your mare showed me that? And I said, because she wanted you to know cross species. She could see it and she could feel your pain, that it is not just yours, that this is cross species all the way across. And she wanted you to know deeply how much she had heard you. She's a mother herself and could feel all of that pain with you. So it was great though. So that's their beauty. I mean, that mare stood for her. In fact, when she leaned on her, was crying on her, she started doing like this, just ever so slowly rocking her. It was just so beautiful.
That's unbelievable. That's
I
unbelievable.
know. That's
And
why I
if you-
start that story with there were 22 people in the ring.
You know, if you think about it's like there's so many things about it that's incredible, right? Like the fact that the horse could feel her pain and be able to see it and, act it out and recognize it. But the fact that the horse knows what to do for the highest healing, even though it's so incredibly painful. Obviously, that's an extraordinarily difficult story to hear.
Right,
and
right.
hurtful to experience, but it's
Right.
like in the shadows and in the trauma is often like where we need to go to heal
Absolutely.
ourselves, right? And
Mhm.
it's like, how does one do that on your own, right? Like
No, you can't on your own. You can't on your own. Horses live a very Gestalt life. And so Gestalt and horses go together really, really well. So I've never looked back since I started doing it with them as the best partners they could possibly be, because they hear it, they see it in their mind's eye, they feel it, they honor when people are lying to themselves, they'll set boundaries, and they're just really incredible. And I know some people listening to your podcast, I'm sure, have a horse in the backyard that they go ride and stuff, and good for them. What my mission in the world is that people will hold horses at a higher level, actually see them in a more spiritual and higher level. So if you have a horse in your backyard, give them a smooch today, give them a hug, let them know you learned a little bit more about why they're on the earth and why they're here and what they can do. It's their essential gift. They're willing to give it if we're willing to receive it.
I will never look at a horse the same way again. I'm going to stop. You're going to see me on the side of the highway jumping fences.
I am so fascinated by your story because, I mean, when we talked about them being telepathic, the horse is acting out the memories in her head.
Yes. Everything that they saw, all
Yeah.
the images that she saw, like, and you saw this, and you saw this, and you saw this. I don't think that Tori understood that was in Africa, clear across on the continent. I'm not trying to say that. But what she knew was this hurt you to see this, and this hurt you to see that. And she was able to really share that with her and let her know, I hear you. I hear you. I see you. I feel you, which is
Oh,
very
yeah.
healing.
It's so healing. And like what you're saying about like the horses being from the angel realm, right?
Right.
Creating, and I think about how powerful this healing is because then you're no longer experiencing things on the earthly plane.
Exactly.
You know, this is divine. When you feel like you're not just seen and heard, but there is a connection to the spiritual world
Yeah. Yeah.
far beyond our understanding, in some ways, it can help us assign meaning to it, I guess is what I'm trying to
Yeah.
say. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, this is I'm being
exactly
seen
right.
and heard from a divine realm
Yeah.
that you cannot explain. That has to be magical for that
It is.
recipient.
It is. People are never quite sure what they just witnessed. So they're kind of dumbstruck while they're crying, looking at each other like, did that horse really just do that? Yes, they really just did that.
Oh my gosh.
Okay,
Yeah.
this is a great segue. So you brought a little gift to the podcast today,
Mhm.
your card deck.
Yeah.
Melissa, tell us
So-
about your card deck.
So a beautiful good friend of mine, her name was Jan Taylor, was an amazing equine artist. She's in Leaning Tree cards, and a lot of people know of her work. And she kept her horses on my farm in Arizona. So that's how we connected and met. And I always wanted to create a deck, a spiritual deck for people, but with horses. And so I utilized Jan's beautiful artwork all the way through. She's very eclectic equine artist. So I thought I will shuffle this. You tell me when to stop and we'll read the deck. There's 52 in the deck. I will read the card that I wrote that comes up with that painting. So just tell me to stop when you want me to stop.
That
Okay. Fun. Mystical. So this one, actually, that's what you guys got. Actually, on my ranch in British Columbia is a black and white American paint horse. He was what's called a reiner. His name is QT for Quick Time. And she did this beautiful painting of him for me. And then I wrote all the deck and published the deck. So the vastness of your purpose and the energies of the universe are before you at this time. What was once mundane and straightforward now seems to be full of mystery. Your understanding of the mystical energies is deepening. I truly just pulled this when you guys said stop. So this is your podcast, right? So you feel expansive and at one with the vibrations of your energy and all creation. Cleanse all your thoughts and convert all your energy to the greater good at this time. The profound and the understood are becoming more familiar and clear. Remain in each present moment, staying in contact with your own self. You are being challenged to recognize yourself as the creator of your moments to come. Take responsibility for all you put out energetically as you move through your world. The mystical truth is to believe and to hold others and your own self are already whole, perfect, and complete. Hold that everything is unfolding before you with the divine inspiration in divine time and with divine ease. So mote it be. So the writings are on the back of the cards, and it's been a powerful deck. I did it, I think, 22 years ago. It's pretty special all the way around. So that's the card you guys got.
you have no idea.
Blown away, right?
Yeah, blown away. I mean, just talking about what we talked about on this podcast today, but the conversations that Rachel and I are having, on a daily basis and the guidance that we need to hear, like that could not have been more spot on.
I know. I was like, well,
Crazy.
which card should I do? I'll just have them choose a card by telling me to stop. So I love that. On the front, if I may, I'm going to read the quote that is drawn to me more than any other quote. I wrote, Our lives are shaped and seasoned by unforeseen circumstances. Our being human means we choose our own responses and reactions to them, often maturing as we grow. Through friendships and with guidance, our own truth is formed as we step into our destiny. Horses can be our dearest guides, most profound teachers, and sweet, trusted confidants on life's journey. Blessed are those who experience the whispers from a horse's heart. So that's the name of the deck, is Whispers from a Horse's Heart.
Okay,
And
this is now the third time I've cried on this podcast. Like, oh my gosh.
Only happy when everybody cries. My students will tell you that.
It's
And
beautiful.
if people want the deck, they can get it at touchedbyahorse.com. Go to our store or our shop there, and we'll send it to you. And so that deck has done so much for people. And I have a veterinarian that gives it to people if he has to euthanize a horse, has to put a horse down, he hands them a deck, because he said nothing will heal them faster than being able to horses have this beautiful wisdom. So yeah.
Oh, you are an angel.
Yes, I was just going to say you are such a gift in so many capacities, to the people you heal on your farm, in your words and your beautiful writing, on and on and on.
Thank you, ladies.
We're lucky to have you.
Thank you.
No, I know the way that these things work out. I mean, we are so blessed. This is like a dream life that we get to talk to people like you. I mean, it just blows our mind. So like the card you pulled, how we got connected with you, all of it. It was like, this felt like more healing in this conversation, than a week of therapy. Think about that.
Right.
We're just hearing about it.
Treat. You bet. You bet.
Gosh, you're such a blessing, Melissa. We're going to come visit you.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are. You're going to come to the women's retreat in British Columbia.
Oh my gosh.
All right.
I would love to.
Good.
Yes. Thank you guys. What a wonderful, unexpected, surprising, moving conversation we had today. I mean, it's not often. I mean, Rachel and I sporadically burst into tears, but this, we don't usually cry throughout an episode. And Melissa, your gifts and everything that you shared today is so incredibly moving. I know our listeners are just going to be thrilled by this. And what an exciting way to learn about another healing modality that is so powerful to people who need it. So thank you. And guys, if this episode was helpful, please send it to a friend or a family member. We can't do this without you. Leave a positive comment or be sure to give us 5 stars on Spotify or Apple. And you can also check us out on YouTube. We now have full video podcasts on YouTube. So stay tuned to next week. We will talk to you then. Have a beautiful, blessed week.
Thank you both.
Thanks for joining us for today's episode. If you're ready to take your spirituality to the next level, be sure to check out our website, spiritoutspoken.com. There you can download free educational resources, read our latest blog posts, and join the Spirit Outspoken community.
And don't forget to follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Spirit Outspoken to stay up to date on news, happenings, shenanigans, and all things Spirit Outspoken.